My guest is Leymah Gbowee, the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize winner from Liberia. She won the prize for leading a women's movement that ended the Second Civil War in Liberia. She was in Danbury, Connecticut in February for the Peace Jam at Western Connecticut State University. I caught up with her there. I started by asking her how difficult it was for her to get together women from different ethnic and religious backgrounds to form a peace movement that was successful in ending the Civil War.
When the war was on, everyone refused to acknowledge that beyond the politics and the ethnic divide, that religion played a vital role in where we found ourselves as a people. However, as we progress, we recognize that the warring factions that were emerging were either emerging on the basis of ethnic group or on the basis of religious diversity. So when we decided to do our actions, we wanted it to be something that was all-inclusive. Women from different ethnic groups, women from different political groups, women from different economic and social status, but also women from the different religious divide.
So what's the divide? What's the divide between Christians and Muslims in Liberia?
Well, I think we'll give it 51-49 or 51-48.
So pretty evenly divided.
Pretty evenly divided. However, when we decided to do the action, people would easily come together and we say, okay, all of the ethnic groups, let's talk about differences. When it came to religious divide, it was like, oh no, we don't have any problems. And you know, one of the ways of solving a problem is a recognition that there is a problem. When people are in denial, it's difficult. So working with the Christian and the Muslim, we were just trying to mobilize them around faith was the most difficult part of it. But once we were able to get them together, it was easy now for us to begin to identify issues that had to do. So coming together was the hard part. Once we came together, we did not focus on the religious divide. Rather, we were looking at what brought us together more, the common things we had, and the common thing was that we were all women.
Okay, this leads me to ask you a question about what we've seen with the upheaval in the United States following the so-called Muslim ban. What does your experience in Liberia, how would you relate to what's going on in the United States today?
Well, I think the first thing is that if I will go back to the words of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and even Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the different religious groups primarily are just in name and the way we pray or worship. But if you look at the principles and the values, especially as it relates to peace and human life and all of the things that are dear to all of us, they're the same. Love your neighbor as yourself, take care of the weak, the orphans, the widow, and all of these things. And I think at this point in time, this is the message that we need to put out there. So let it not be about Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim. Let it be about the common humanity that we share.
Now, let's talk about something that was pretty controversial when you were involved in your movement to try and bring peace in Liberia. Gained a lot of national attention was the sex strike. You have been known to have said that it had little or no practical effect, but it was extremely valuable in getting media attention.
When we said we're doing a sex strike, in all honesty, it wasn't that we were targeting the media first. It was for us to get the attention of the men in Liberia to say, hey, even if you're not a fighter, you have a beer buddy that is a fighter that you need to begin to talk to, that he needs to see reason why they should end the war. But once we put it out there, the request for press and everything that we were not getting at first brought us to the place where we said, wow, this is a really good tool for getting our stories out there. So I think the world that we live in, as unfair as it may be, is that people the media will only capture things that are either violent or sexually motivated. Nothing about peace really sells to the media like war, killings, sex, rape, and abuse.
Now, your goal has been to empower women in Liberia and in Africa. As a matter of fact, you've just celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Boeing Foundation. How successful have you been?
In 5 years, we've raised in grants over $1.2 million. We've been able to send over 100 students to school in 7 countries around the world. We today have impacted directly the lives of over 2,500 students in Liberia and indirectly maybe tens of thousands. But the beauty for me is not in the dollar in the sense that we've been able to spend. The beauty is the number of young women who have seen a future beyond what they had.
You've just come back from Bogota, Colombia, where they've reached a peace agreement after decades of war. And you told the people of Colombia that they should hold their president's feet to the fire. What did you mean by that?
President Santos is a Nobel Laureate now. He's the president of Colombia. There's a peace process. He's in the forefront. But the reason for them to hold his feet to the fire is to ensure that there's not a slump in this process, that it continues on time, and that every resource needed will be given to the process, including his time and energy.
Now let's go back to your native country of Liberia again. On January 16, 2018, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf would have finished her 2nd term. She was the first woman to have been elected president in Africa. What do you think this means for women's empowerment in Africa?
Well, the first thing I would say President Sirleaf's election did for Liberia was to raise a whole generation of young people that would look at themselves in the mirror, especially young women, and say, if she could, I too can. Not just in becoming president, but in aspiring to be whatever I want to be. The other side of it is that, women in politics will be judged harsher than a man in politics. And President Sirleaf did what she could do for Liberia. And you know that we've had our fallout. I wish that she had been a one-term president. A one-term president set Liberia on a course for rehabilitation, reconciliation, everything stepped out of the picture. Said recently she would have been the female version of Nelson Mandela, staying in office for a 2nd term, putting her children in positions that made people to look at her with another eye, not only took away some of the clout that she had, but it also brought all of us, the women in Liberia, who may intend to go into leadership in the future, to a place where the men are saying, why should we give it to you? So this one woman is now being used as the yardstick to measure women's leadership in the future in Liberia.
Well, you're here in Connecticut for the Peace Jam, hosted by Western Connecticut State University. Why is it important for you to be here?
I won the prize at 39. Sometimes I wonder whether it's the right age I'm calling. 38, 39, I won the prize. And I was asked, so what legacy do you want to leave? I just won the prize, that's a legacy. And my team was like, no. If you had won at 79, then you had a whole life ahead of that behind you. And this is like, okay, you can shut it down for 39. And I thought about it for a long time, and I recognized that in my past life as an activist with the women's movement, there were 2 things that were missing: young people and education, young people and leadership. So my response was that I want to do something around youth, leadership and education. And so I started this journey. Being a part of Peace Jam helped me fulfill some of that goal, the goal of inspiring young people to be the best that they can be. And so I come to Peace Jam with my life experience, no theory, raw, practical, that this is who I am. What you see is what you get. And this is where I've been. And if you want to take this journey, you have to dare to go through all of these different things. So for me, because young people are the next generation, I was at a talk in New York a few days ago where people were asking, how do you give young people their voice? And I said, in the school setting today, especially with young women, at home, at school, we teach our daughters from very early ages that you are important. It's not like in the 30s where women were to be seen and not heard. Today we say be heard, be seen, be loud. But from baby to 17, that message is reinforced. And then they step into the real world during college, and then they meet a counter, a world that patriarchy is still in full flesh control, a world where women, when you're too loud, you get judged. Young girls will not get dates because some boys are afraid of an intellectual mind, all of these different things. And the question I was asking that group was, how do we mentor our young people for after 18, for the real world? And I think my role today at Peace Jam and all of the other places that I find myself is to begin a conversation with both boys and girls that this is the real world, not the bubble you were in when you were in high school and in your parents' home. The real world is the world that will challenge the values that you were socialized with. How do you stand firm for what you believe in? And I think if we're able to help young people to understand that, we're able to help to change the world. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think by just the importance of being here is also keeping me young. It's also keeping me focused. I am privileged to be able to go to different countries and at the UN, at the EU, to sit with global leaders. Which message do I want to give them? Is it just the message that I hear on the news or message from these young people? So I think the importance of it is that it keeps me humble, it keeps me legitimate, because by engaging with young people through hands-on, I'm able to say, these are the constituents that I work with, and these are the voices that I represent when I stand at the UN to speak around issues of youth and youth empowerment. So it's very important for me. If I fail to come to these events and to go back to my community, I've lost the call all my life.
Well, Gbowee,
Thank you.